Well, welcome Christian Metal Group community. I'm here with Jay and our special guest, David Zaffiro. So we are, Jay and I are part of the admin team and leadership for Christian Metal Group. And David has had a long history in the Christian metal industry, starting back with Bloodgood and many other solo projects and all kinds of great stuff. How are you doing today, David?
Very well, thank you. I don't want to sound like a jerk, but it's David Zaffiro.
Zaffiro, yeah.
How do you pronounce it?
Zaffiro.
Because I think you said Ferio.
You probably, yeah, you're probably right. I should have asked beforehand.
It's so funny, dude. I gotta ask the first question. Then in that case, how many times through the years have people messed up your last name?
Actually, surprisingly, not that often. It's most people kind of get it right. Once in a while, somebody will get it wrong. And
because has somebody ever done it from the stage?
No.
Okay, that's good. I've seen people, man, that they get somebody starts to announce them from the stage, and it's like totally the wrong
butchered.
Like, oh my goodness, what happened?
Absolutely butcher it, right?
Yeah.
So David, did you grow up in a religious home?
Well, kind of. My family and my history is bizarre enough that I'm writing memoirs about it now.
Oh wow!
I'm writing a book.
Nice.
Yeah, I could tell you stuff that you wouldn't believe. But my mom was married 4 different times. And so she married Mr. Wakeford first, and then my brother Scott was born. And then that didn't work out for whatever reason. I don't have any details thereof. And then she married Mr. Boyle, and then that brought Alana, Susan, and Michael. And then she married Dr. Zaffiro, and that was my dad. And the Boyle relationship didn't work out. There was a couple reasons why, I guess. And then Dr. Zaffiro died when I was 6. So then she married, and Dr. Zaffiro had adopted Billy, so he's my brother. And then she married Ed Reeder, and so I have 2 stepsisters. So at the end of the day, it's 9 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think it's 9. I mean, I know it's 9. I don't know if I went through them right to explain that though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
awesome.
I was the youngest of 9.
And what area? Where did you grow up at?
Washington, Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
My dad, Dr. Zaffiro, was a psychologist, but he's also a pastor, and I think it was in the Methodist ministry.
Okay.
So I had an influence from him in that regard.
Nice.
I don't know if that makes sense.
That's pretty cool. So let's talk about how you grew up as far as music. What was your first instrument? How many instruments do you play?
Well, I can program like piano and stuff like that, and program sophisticated information to make a mock-up of for a featured quasi underscore, if you will, right? Like on Legend Hunters, that film that a friend of mine, Shada, was doing. And so heavy programming stuff. But my main instrument is guitar, and then I also play bass. And I also play zither.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, zither. That's an interesting one. I have it on one of my songs I recently finished up.
Nice.
So I'm trying to. It's such a long shot. I mean, I've reached him technically speaking, but I'm not sure that it actually made it to him. But Susan and I were on our back deck, and the song was getting done, and it wasn't mixed completely yet, but it was getting, it's getting to that point where I'm going, okay, I just need to, really all I need to do is just mix it and it's done. But we're listening to a rough mix on the back deck, and I'm thinking, because it's an instrumental, but it's a very intense song, and I'm thinking, NCIS or whatever it is, that detective and forensics show. And I was thinking of that. And Susan looks over at me and she goes, 007. I'm like, oh my goodness, it sounds like a 007
Nice.
song. So then I'm off to the races trying to figure out how to get it into that franchise. I contacted Barbara Broccoli, who now runs the franchise. It was passed down from her dad, who ran the franchise before that. Called her up, got her assistant, and she's like, no, we don't take any unsolicited material. And I'm thinking, well,
wow.
producers or lawyers, that's not unsolicited. But I said, well, would it be better if I lawyer service you with the song? And she goes, no, we just don't. I'm like, okay, all right. So it was it was an interesting conversation. It wasn't bad or anything, but
right.
So then I talked to Larry Benjamin. He's worked on Ozark and The Good Wife and all these other films, and he's my mentor for Trenches of Rock and Finding Light, the two featured films I did the audio on, and we both agreed that you got to have, the only way you're going to do this is to contact a music supervisor. And that I had to look up. It was weird. I did a Google on it. I did this. I get all this weird misinformation. I'm like, what's going on here? So I thought, okay, you know what? Forget this. So I get the movie, and I was looking for No Time to Die, last Bond film. Who's the music supervisor? So I put the film on. I scroll to the end, and I just watch the credits, And finally, it pops up. Oh, okay. Randall Poster. So then I had to figure out how to reach him, and I got it to him basically through a law firm. But I'm not sure that he actually got it. So anyway, that's a long story about a zither, but it's on that song.
You had to do
that's totally cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what was your when growing up and everything, what was your kind of introduction to metal music? Like how did that come about?
Oh, well, I grew up in Seattle as a young boy, and then after my mom married Ed Reeder, we lived on Mercer Island, and then on both sides. My mom had the Widow House on I think it's the south side, and then we moved to the north side. I might have that backwards. And then eventually we moved up, and so all the families in this house on Mercer Island. Nice house, but I mean, 9 kids. I mean, come on. So we moved to Fairwood, Renton. And my parents were always talking about, my dad and my mom were saying, well, we're thinking of moving to Australia. And I'm like, wow, Australia. And maybe we'll get you a mini bike there. And I'm like, okay, I'm in, yeah. And then it was somewhere else. Like, we're going to move to Africa. I'm like, Africa. Okay, yeah, all right. We're going to move into Africa, My dad was in the space program. Ed was, my stepdad. And finally, by the time they got to Alaska, I'm like, yeah, sure. We're going to move to Alaska. Right. Whatever. I don't believe you. You're in it now. Well, guess what? Next thing I know, I'm in Fairbanks.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
And I grew up in Fairbanks through my teen years. Wow. And that's when I met a friend of mine, Maverick, who's not with us anymore, but he was a great guitar player. And then we just bounced off each other and played and all that stuff. And he was kind of into hard rock. And I kind of grew up just playing. I had a really nice acoustic guitar, and I just kind of learned, Cat Stevens, James Taylor, the Beatles, just all these kind of classic songs on acoustic. But then eventually I moved over to electric and studied that, went into a band called Blind Alice, which was in Anchorage. And that was a kind of a fusion band. It was a trippy band, good band, but interesting music. Wow. And then I eventually moved back to Seattle, and Susan and I had just got married, and I joined a band called Crystal City Rockers.
Okay.
And then after that, JT and Michael Bloodgood were putting together the band Bloodgood. Okay. And JT's like, you should try Dave. And Michael's like, Dave, really? He goes, yeah, man. He plays this stuff all the time. He can play metal. Because I was into all kinds of speed, like Al Di Meola back then and all that stuff. So I'm like, okay. So I joined Bloodgood, and that's kind of when I started to get into metal, was Bloodgood.
Nice. I gotta ask, what does a teenager do in Fairbanks?
Um, a whole lot.
Oh, okay. Well, I've
Yeah,
never
so
been.
I mean, of course, when I was a teenager, I was smoking pot and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
and doing a lot of things I shouldn't be doing. But one of the things I love to do is, when it's in the winter, the sun comes up around the part of the winter solstice, if you want to call it that, solstice, summer solstice, winter solstice. The sun comes up around 10 o'clock,
Mm.
and it goes down around 2. So it's dark out.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I've heard about that.
Yeah, and so I was riding these Arctic Cats, man, these snowmobiles, and I'm just flying through the neighborhood. It's dark out. I'm throwing the thing sideways, like let's say if you're going straight and then you have to take a turn,
Yeah.
I'd be like going straight, and I'd throw it sideways and just crossed up forever. And I loved doing that. That was a lot of fun. Pretty
Nice.
dangerous. And of course, if a police officer's car came around, you're gonna have to either outrun it, which is stupid, or you're gonna get a really nice, beautiful ticket.
Nice.
Man, that's pretty wild, man. Dude, so of course, we've already mentioned that you've been in music for such a long time. So were you at the very beginning of the formation of Bloodgood? I know you played on the first like 3 albums or so.
Yeah.
How did you connect with those guys?
Well, so JT knew me from Crystal City because he was in that band. I knew Michael from the band Cypress because he used to play around town too.
Okay.
Well, we all knew each other. And then, so I joined the band roughly in that time, but we didn't have a lead singer. And right after that, Les Carlson came into focus and joined the band, and that was it. Our first show was with Stryper. Our second show was with Stryper. And our third show was with Daryl Mansfield.
Oh,
and
nice.
so Daryl Mansfield took, because we had made a tape by that time, a demo, Metal Missionaries, I believe is the one. And Daryl took it down to Jimmy Kempner, and Jimmy offered us the record deal.
That's so good, man. There's a guy at my church that he was a touring bass player for Daryl Mansfield. He plays bass on my worship team.
Did you say torn bass player?
Touring.
Oh, touring.
Touring.
Oh,
yeah. I'm from South Carolina, man.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, touring bass player. Yeah.
Yeah. So what? So that 86, the Bloodgood, the first album. What was it like the first time getting into studio and recording and all that and learning all that good stuff?
It was interesting when we did the demo first. I don't know if it was. Actually, it was Crystal City, and I went in to go 3D studios, 3D something, 3D perception. I can't remember it. And no, it's Extra Central Productions. So ESP. 3D was the one that we did with Daryl Mansfield, first record. Okay. Sorry, it's been 40 years.
Yeah, it all runs.
I remember doing that first project with Crystal City at ESP, and I literally, I was like, I was a young guy, and I was probably maybe 22, 23. And I remember like getting ready and the band setting up, and Charles Mesrell was the engineer. And I looked over at Charles, who I didn't know very well at the time, but I said, dude, my hands are shaking. I can't stop them from shaking. He goes, it's okay. It's okay. You don't want to make any mistakes. And he goes, that will wear off. Give it time. But by the time we got to doing the debut record for Bloodgood, Daryl was the producer, and I already had been in the studio a fair amount, so I was comfortable, very comfortable there. But it was the first time I got to work with a producer, and I thought to myself, after we got that record done, and during that process, I thought, you know what? I want to do that. I want to produce. And that was watching Daryl and what he did, and it just made me want to become a producer.
Nice. So from there, of course, like I said, you all did 3 albums that are definitely considered classics. What was your inspiration musically for these albums? Like, I know you all get a lot of, I guess, comparisons to a few certain groups, which I'm probably name in a minute, but I'm curious from your perspective.
Well, I mean, you got to remember, I mean, Bloodgood, in my opinion, doesn't sound like any other band. I mean, it was just a different animal.
Mhm.
And even the idea of theatrics on your stage and performing, it was just totally, all of a sudden you're watching the show and Les comes out with this white or red robe and this crown as Pilate. You're like, what's going on here, man? It was just, so there was that. And then he throws the robe off and he becomes Jesus, and Michael and I are whipping him. Did you ever see a Bloodgood show?
Unfortunately, I did not. Oh, hold up. I got to see one, but it was a few years ago at Cornerstone. I mean,
okay.
well, of course, Cornerstone hasn't been around for a while, but I'm thinking the last Cornerstone I went to was it had to be like 2005 or so, and Oz was playing guitar.
Oh wow!
Right, yeah. So that's way after. Okay,
Yeah.
So when the original lineup, we had a lot of theatrics like that, and we'd whip Les with our guitar necks, this kind of thing. He'd do this, and with all this theater kind of thing.
That's wild.
It's really fun. But the inspiration, the first record, we just wrote the record, man. Les had ideas, I had ideas, Michael had ideas, JT had ideas. And then the second one was like, okay, now we get to do Detonation. And it's kind of the same workflow, but the songs got more. I mean, just the fact of writing a song alone in suicide and stuff like that. It's just that album was kind of and Crucify and Messiah.
Oh, so
right. Oh God.
All
yes.
these, so it just that was a pretty diversified record. And then when we got to Rock in a Hard Place, everything changed. Terry Shelton was the producer. Detonation we self-produced. So Daryl Mansfield produced the first one. Detonation, Mike and Les and I produced that. And then Rock in a Hard Place, you got this guy, Terry Shelton. And Terry's a genius. There's no doubt about that. Terry Shelton's a musical genius.
So who had he worked for before that?
Jesse Colin Young, a number of different bands. He had been in LA working with all kinds of people. Okay. He's been in Nashville working with all about that. He's not now, but
yeah,
probably should. I keep encouraging him, like, dude, we should do something together. You need to get it back into the studio. But and so he's listening to the Detonation record. He's listening to it as we're going through the songs, right? And as he's going, he's like listening. He goes, oh, okay. So that's the tempo. Okay. So the halftime, right? He goes, oh, we're slowing down. Oh, we're going slower. How slow are we going to go here? You guys want to pick a tempo? Won't you want to stay on tempo, or just want to move all over the place? That's how he talks. He goes, and I remember at one point I was like, so we had to learn to play with a click because we never.
Oh God, yes. Mercy.
And so I remember first time we're in this huge stage, going through the songs. Terry's doing pre-production, and I was playing, and I'm like, man, Terry, this click's moving around. He goes, no, click's not moving. You are. It's like but we got used to it and went through that. And I would write a song like there's this one song called "She's Gone," and I remember writing that thing. And Terry's like I'm playing it for him, and he's looking at his watch, and he goes, "You should already be in the chorus now. It's not. Go on, do it again. Go." I come back like a week later, and I go, "Okay, I got this." He's like, "Oh, wow, we're gonna wait this long for the chorus still, huh? Are you going anywhere? It should change right there. This is boring. Go, write it again."
Wow.
Then a third time I came back, and he listened to the thing, and he goes, "This is good. Very good." I mean, you had to. He didn't pull any punches. So I learned as a writer and a producer working with him too. He's a good producer, and but I grew a lot as a writer working with him.
Nice, super cool.
So what was it like then? You eventually left and you had a successful solo career, and how was that transition for you?
Yeah, interesting. So Mike McLean was the A&R at Frontline. Brian Tong, I think, was VP. I think he might have been president, but Jim Kempner was the owner because it was a sole proprietorship. And I remember I played I went in and recorded this demo. Well, actually, when I was starting to record this demo, and work on these songs, I felt like the Lord kind of just stopped me and said, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I don't know. You know, I'm like, what do you say?" And it just spoke in my spirit. Just says, "You're in Bloodgood right now. You need to be focusing on that, not some demo or solo record." I'm like, okay. So I just put it on the shelf. Boom. And then eventually, it got to where I did the demo because I couldn't really tour with Bloodgood anymore. There's a lot of things that were too difficult for my family. I thought, well,
They
you
had
know,
me so much,
I knew that it would probably put me out of the band. So I finished up I See Red and Spirit of the Lord, those two songs. And I sent them down to Mike McLean, and Mike loved it. And he plays it for Brian Tong. And he goes, "Hey," he plays I See Red. He goes, "Hey, have a listen to this." And Brian's listening, and Mike goes, "Who do you think that is?" And Brian's like, "I don't have a clue. I mean, who is that?" He goes, "That's David Zaffiro." He goes, "No way." You know? So after a while, Jimmy Kempner called me up, and I had already left Bloodgood at this point, and he just says, he was so naive. And we were talking, and he would say something. I said, "Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, that would be good," you know. And he'd say something else to the effect of to work together, but you know. And I said, "Yeah, that would be great." He goes, "David, I'm offering you a record deal. You're not getting it." I said, "You're offering? Oh, you're actually offering me a record deal?" He goes, "Yes, that's what's happening here, David."
So funny.
It's crazy.
That's
So yeah, did 4 records with Frontline. I've never was happy with any of them completely because the budgets were so small. The first record had real drums, and the mix was atrocious. And then the second record, you know, is programming stuff like that. And I just, you know, if it's going to be a program thing because you're doing a pop song or something, that's fine and dandy. But every time you try to program drums to sound like real drums, you're already handicapped, man. It's just not, it's never going to be the same.
Yeah, absolutely understand.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, of course, people when they think David Zaffiro, you know, they think almost guitar hero, production hero. But what got you into singing?
Oh, I always sang. Even before Bloodgood, all that. I sang songs in Crystal City all the time. I sang in Blind Alice.
Okay.
Yeah, I was always singing. I didn't sing correctly, and you have to understand, like Les. I mean, I learned to with working with Les. I learned to sing correctly. But Les studied under David Kyle. Do you guys know who that is?
I've heard that name
I
before.
don't know.
Okay, he's a maestro and he's in Washington. He's not with us anymore, but older guy. And he taught. Have you ever heard of Tate?
Yes.
From Queensrÿche? He taught Tate.
Okay,
You ever
cool.
heard? How about Ann Wilson from Heart?
Yeah, of course.
He taught her. So this guy has taught all these killer voices. When Pavarotti came to Seattle and wanted to tune up on his voice, he went to see David Kyle.
Wow.
I mean, that's pretty serious.
Yeah,
so that's the singer I'm working with because Les was trained by him. And so I grew as a singer, and I had to, and
that's awesome.
That was a good thing for me.
Yeah, that's super cool. So, I mean, I remember when I first heard, because I heard of you as a solo artist before I heard of Bloodgood, and I think the first time I heard of you was probably mentioned like maybe on one of those Christian metal radio station programs, like, you know, like a lot of times the Christian stations, I'm talking about like late 80s, early 90s, they would have like these like programs that come on around midnight, and you know they'll play like Christian metal or like Z-Rock, where they'll play like a few Christian metal music videos and all the other kind of stuff. So yeah, that was the first, and then of course I discovered Bloodgood. Actually, it's funny, I discovered Bloodgood via 2 covers. One was by Tourniquet, the other by Mortification.
Wow.
Tourniquet did an EP, as you probably know, when Guy left the band. Les filled in for one of their EPs, like a live EP.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was that same year Mortification did a death metal version of Black Snake.
Oh wow, that's right.
Yo, so yeah, so that was my first introduction. But when I heard David Zaffiro, of course I talked about like the whole Guitar Hero thing. I think at that time there were only a few people that really stood out in Christian music as guitar heroes. Like, and of course Christian metal was budding. I mean, it was like, as far as people that had actual solo albums, it was like Ken Tamplin, who else? Lenny Cardalla, Gerald Mansfield,
Yeah.
Glenn Kaiser was about to put out his blues album or whatever, but so yeah, so that was, I think it was an interesting time to grow up for sure. Like, having those few. So let's talk legacy for a second. What do you feel is your ultimate legacy when it comes to metal, when it comes to Christian metal or Christian music?
Well, I mean, that's uh, if you didn't say metal or Christian metal, I'd say my ultimate legacy hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
How's that? And it may never. And I've always kind of wrestled with that word legacy. What does that word even mean? I mean, well, I know what it means, but is God going to be okay with that word? Lord,
Yeah,
this was my legacy. He goes, oh, that was your legacy, was it? Oh,
right. Oh, yeah, I feel you.
You get this kind of feeling. You're like, okay, what does that mean? I think in the Christian metal, the legacy. I mean, Bloodgood was that legacy, and when I was in the band, it was really a different band than when I left.
Okay.
First record, as far as I'm concerned, my guitar playing was pretty rough compared to what it needed to be. Second record, it got better. Third record, I had grown as a guitar player. And by the time I started to do my solo records, I really started to grow because everything was changing like crazy. It's just like my technique. I mean, if you want to play a double flat five, a diminished, I mean, you can do that with metal, obviously. Or if you want to play a major seven, you can do that with metal. It ain't going to sound very good. So it's like metal's very limiting if you think about it, It's kind of limiting. And it all comes down to the progression. And, some of the chords that you're playing, the only reason it's a major or minor is because of the progression, because you're just playing 1-5-1. So you don't know,
right.
There's no minor, there's no flat third or no major third, so you don't know.
Right.
And so getting out of that, I grew as a guitar player and got back to my roots of writing and sophistication and just being able to do other things besides metal. And that was liberating, of course. Don't get me wrong, I loved playing metal. If someone said, what do you think of metal now? I'd say I don't really listen to it too much.
Right.
I'm like, why not? Well, look, if it's good, if it's a good song, I'll love it. Trust me. There's a lot of songs that are just, especially today in the secular, in the mainstream. There's so many bad songs, I can't believe it. It's just extraordinary. Some of the songs I've heard, and everyone thinks it's the Emperor's Clothes. Oh, look at those beautiful clothes. Wait a minute, he's buck naked. It's just like, dude. And but then you listen to. Have you ever listened to Muse?
Yes.
Okay, like it's not an edifying song per se, but if you listen to Psycho, the way it's written, that is a well-crafted song. That's a cool metal song. Period. Yeah. I love that. That I love. Other things that are just powerful and have energy to have power and energy doesn't interest me that much. It's just not that interesting. I'd rather listen to Beethoven's Ninth. So there's just a lot, which I love, by the way. It's one of my favorite symphonies ever. So I don't know if that answers the question or not, but
no, that's cool. That's cool. It's of course it's definitely all about I guess your perspective, but I think that it's definitely all about God for sure. But I do believe that, you said Bloodgood is your legacy. And I think even with that, like, there weren't that many, like I said, there weren't that many Christian metal bands. I know, just thinking about myself growing up and just looking for different types of music, and it's like,
Yeah.
what's out there, and it's just like I said, the people I already named, like Lanny and all them, and of course they played in bands, different bands, and then you had Striper, of course we talked about Striper, and like I mean just wasn't that many, so
Yeah.
just I think that
You had
Bloodgood,
White Cross,
White
Cross,
Cross,
Barren Cross, Red Cross,
Neon Cross.
Neon Cross.
Neon Cross. And all these crosses. It's like, okay.
Neon Cross is going to be at Immortal Fest this year.
Oh, they sure are. Yes.
That'll be
Then you had remember we had King's X though, which is kind of
King's X. But I think that you all, like all these bands, gave people like kids like me permission in a lot of ways to rock it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's super important. So you actually spoke about, just other types of music. Let's talk, just deviate from metal for a second and talk about End Time Warriors, because I thought that was interesting, that you worked with ETW back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Wait. With who?
ETW, the rap group, Christian rap group.
End Time Warriors.
Oh, that's right. That was wow. I was mixing. I was doing mixing for Forefront.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just mixing.
Okay.
And it's kind of interesting that I wasn't really that much of a mixing engineer back then. I mean, I was okay, but not. I didn't really know what I'm doing. I didn't know.
What was it like working with those guys?
You were in the budget for Forefront.
Yeah, right. They were not. They were not in the room with me. I worked solo.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's it. You're just on the credits. There we go.
Yeah. But I did the mix, and if I remember right, Ted Tees was listening to it, and he said it's a little mid-rangey. I'm like, man,
Yeah,
Dude.
I'm sure you probably work with a lot more than this, but I just kind of wanted to highlight some people can kind of get an idea, because you have quite an extensive list of people you work with, which I think is great. All different genres and stuff. Acquire the Fire, Andy Chrisman, a Worship House, Brett Williams, Broken Silence, Eli, End Time Warriors, Holy Soldier, Julie Muller, Kate Miner, Kim Hill, Little Big Town, the Passion Worship Band, Paul Kupek, Point of Grace, White Cross, and Zion. So you're like all over the place. Like, so do you have a home recording studio that you do this with, or
this what you're seeing is the backside of the wall of my control room, where I mix this. So this is a room that I had treated for me. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And it's got some serious bass traps in it, like no bass traps that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Got a cloud over my head for any kind of standing wave, but the ceiling's pretty high, so there's not much standing waves anyway. So it's pretty nice. And then in the other room, the bonus room, is where I can track my guitar amps and vocals and anything else I want to do. So yeah, I've always pretty much always had a studio.
So out of all of these people that you've worked with, are there a few that kind of stand out, just like good memories, like really great people to work with?
Well, yeah, I remember when I was working with the girls in Point of Grace.
Yeah.
And Shelly, was it Shelly? Anyway, I'm working at the console, man. I'm working on this take. I'm getting some back vocals and da. And she comes up, and she's really sweet. She's a very sweet person. She comes walking up to grabs a piece of paper, one of those little sticky note tabs things. She goes, and she just grabs that thing, grabs a pen, and puts it down in front of me. And she walks away. And she goes, and I read it. She goes, I need you to come downstairs right now, immediately. I'm like, okay, what's going on now? And we lived in Polk Place subdivision, so we had a beautiful home. And so the whole downstairs, Point of Grace used for a photo shoot and interview. Maybe it's just the interview and photos, but either way. And it had something to do with that. But they were good to work with. I will say, though, it was hard working with them in a certain regard, because the way I do things on back vocals and stuff like that, they don't do it that way. So that I was doing half the record, and Wayne Kirkpatrick was doing the other half of the record, producing. And I remember they went to John Mays, who was the A&R for this record, and they said, David's just, he's too meticulous, and we'll spend 2 days on a song and back vocals. And he goes, when I go to Wayne's, we get done in like about 3 hours. We're all done. And Wayne and John Mays looked at looked at them and said, so do you just want to make it easy and just get in and out, or do you want to work?
Huh.
I mean, he didn't. They were good. They were very good.
Yeah.
But it was hard for me because they're so. Well, this is going to sound really bad, so maybe I shouldn't say it. But very kind of natural white bread.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good. That's a great thing. I mean, to me,
Good at
Celine
what they
Dion,
do. Yeah.
as good as Celine Dion,
Yeah.
she was kind of white, or is kind of white bread, but she's one of my favorite singers. So that doesn't mean it's not necessarily a bad.
Amazing.
No, I feel
But but like, well, what did I like? Well, back in that time when I was producing them, I was listening to Sarah McLachlan. I was listening to things that were pretty sophisticated. So my harmonies, some of the harmonies I'd come up with, they were going, "Whoa, that's really interesting. We would never have come up with that." And I'm like, well, yeah, let's do that, and so we're breaking the rules. Working with Little Big Town. So after we finished Point of Grace, I was mixing my half of the record, because at this point I was mixing quite a bit in my career, and I actually knew what I was doing. What do you know? And and so John comes up to me and says, "Hey, would you be interested in mixing Wayne Kirkpatrick's side?" I'm like, sure. Is he okay with it? What about JR or JB? And he goes, well, we listened to the mixes and we don't feel like it's going to work for us. We wanted you to mix the other half. I said, was Wayne okay with that? And he goes, yep, he's okay with it. So that's when I got to meet and work with Wayne Kirkpatrick. And after we got that record done, he says, hey, I can't pay you your rate. I can get somewhere in there. But would you be interested in mixing this other band I'm doing on spec right now? And I said, yeah, you bet. Because I know what a genius Wayne is. So I'm figuring it's going to be awesome. And so that was Little Big Town.
Wow.
And so I mixed the first record. Well, it's actually technically, some say it's the second record because the first one came out on Sony and George Massenburg did the mixing. But now I heard on their interview on CBS that was actually the third record. I guess there was another record in there that happened. I don't know. But it was the first record that really broke them. And I mixed this whole record, except for one song. I think Bones was mixed by somebody else. Mixed the whole record. And Wayne takes it to Clint Black's label, Equity. And they sign him. Here's the clincher. Equity never thought, and they thought, okay, this is gonna be good. This is probably okay. La la la. It goes out the door and it jumps to like sales, Jack. Boondocks goes from all the way from East Coast to West Coast. It explodes everywhere. The record's turning platinum, and Equity's losing their mind. They can't manufacture. They like, I don't know if we can keep up with the manufacturer. They're losing their mind. Yeah. But they pulled it off. They pulled it off. And then after that, they signed to Capitol, bought them out of the contract with Equity, and then I ended up mixing the next record on Capitol. So those were good memories. Working with them, they were really sweet, amazing people, all of them.
So and this just because I don't know, whenever you mix or when a producer is mixing and all that, is it based on the contract, or do you get residuals, or you get paid once and your job's done, or it depends on how it's set up?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, it got to the point right about the time I was, I mean, I think I even asked Karen about this and kind of half jokingly. And she goes, yeah, sure, David, that would be just lovely. Sarcastically. But at that time, guys like Lord Algae and Clear Mountain were getting, I think, a point on the record.
Okay.
Wow. That they mixed. So, but also like Chris Lord Algae, for him to mix one song is $15,000 or $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it's $10,000. So if he's mixing the whole record, it's going to cost you about $100,000. Yeah. Clear Mountain, I don't think was quite that expensive. I certainly wasn't. But my rate paid me really well. And so typically I would just get, if I'm doing a record and I'm doing 10 songs, I get my rate for all the 10 songs. I make great money, to be honest, at that point.
Yeah.
And that's it. I don't get any royalties. But I did ask Karen, I said, hey, I'm doing pretty good. How about the next record? I get a point. She goes,
Yeah,
sure,
right.
David, that would just be lovely, wouldn't it? It's sarcasm.
No, that's cool. I mean,
but
something reminded me of when you were saying that, and I know this is something we talk about. We talked about, especially with producers and songwriters and things like that.
Producers different. That you do get points.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And like now in 2024, the music industry has changed so much. Like ridiculous.
So depressing. It's so depressing.
Yeah. And so what are your thoughts on what's next, and what can we do as artists, as producers, as musicians, even as promoters, and just people that are interested in music to keep the music industry alive, especially.
Let me ask you something. I got a weird sense of humor sometimes, so usually it doesn't get me in trouble. But do either one of you, have you ever heard that term, postal? You went postal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know where that came from?
It was the military, right? No.
Going postal? No, somebody in the post office just went crazy. Like,
some guy went into the post office and unloaded in the post office.
Oh, okay.
Someone like, so what happened to the guy? Did someone remember they used to have those commercials? Do your friend a favor and send him a little bottle of Scope in his mail.
Yeah.
So he gets mouthwash. He goes, that's it. Grabs his clock, goes to the postal service. It's a sad state of affairs, but it really happened.
Sure.
That's kind of how I feel about the music industry right now.
Oh,
wow. I mean, it's just so bad. It's just I can't believe it. And if I'm not mistaken, I need to research this a little bit more. But I was talking to somebody about this, and they were talking about, look, getting paid 0.002% of 1 penny on a stream from YouTube, Pandora, Spotify, Spotify for sure, is ridiculous. But if you go to Europe, they're not getting that. They're getting what they're supposed to be getting.
Really?
Wow. Japan, Australia, all these places. It's because they cut a deal in the U.S. that, as far as I'm concerned, it should be like the Dixie Chicks all over again and suing Sony. Yeah, this is wrong, and they're stealing. They're stealing. I mean, I got stuff on Spotify. I didn't sign off on it.
Oh wow!
Now, whoever owns the masters has that say. I get it, but it's just really not cool. Now, there's other people say, "Oh, Spotify's great. It gives exposure." Oh yeah, really? Yeah, really?
Yeah, I mean, I have heard both sides. Yeah.
I think with that, even the exposure, I think that especially if you're a young artist, especially it's like, okay, you can do a bunch of videos and maybe tour a lot, but I think those of us, and I'm probably right between the young and the older age, but I know a lot of people that have graduated to their 50s and 60s. It's like they're not able, even just physically or mentally, able to tour like somebody in their 20s and all that other kind of stuff. So I think,
and that's where you can make your money in the music industry right now, is on tour. Someone says, yeah, Taylor Swift's record went so and so many times platinum. I'm like, what does that even mean?
Right.
You mean she sold CDs? No, I think not.
Right. That's a very good distinction. Yeah.
It's just the industry's weird, and live is touring, playing live is where you can make money. Sync rights, film and TV, you can make money doing that.
Yep.
But as far as the sales go, there isn't anything like that, and that's our own fault. Technology did that one.
So are you still in the producing and mixing game? Like, are you doing that full time?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I haven't produced as much, but I do from time to time. I'll find something, or someone will come to me and I'm like, okay, this will be good. Mixing wise, I've been mixing. I mixed for Anchored Music recently. I was mixing for them for almost a year on all their stuff. There's an artist I recently got to mix. Kevin Fallon's another one that I got from the Northwest. I got to have the honor of working with him. So yeah, that's thankfully still going. I'll tell you, and I master as well. And a lot of people say they master. If they're doing it in the box, all on the computer, run for your life, because it's going to ruin it. You can't do it. You won't. get the dynamic range and stuff, you have to go through conversion process. And I do that, and people notice it. So, but I'll tell you, I could use more mixing gigs and mastering gigs, to be honest.
You heard it
People
here.
don't even know that I'm doing it.
But we have a lot of musicians that watch this. If you need a mixer, you reach out to David. He'll definitely help you out.
That's great. Anyone can instant message me or whatever. But what was I gonna say? Lost my train of thought. But yeah, I could use the extra work. That's fine. A lot of my friends that I knew too, that are producers and mixing engineers, they're out. They quit.
Yeah,
they couldn't get work at all.
Are you also a musician for hire?
Yeah, I play music all the time. Okay. If somebody needs guitar work or bass or programming, or if they need me to program a lovely ensemble or
right. You know, I'm taking notes. Don't worry about it. No.
Yeah.
So along those same lines of the music industry, and this is something we've been doing a lot with in the music group, and you know, since you have been a musician for so long, what are your thoughts on dealing with AI generated music?
Yes.
Well, I think we're a little bit more worried than we should be.
Okay.
Personally, I think it's going to find a level. Now, I could be wrong about this. That's the other thing. I could just be wrong. But I think right now it's. Remember when everything went digital and they would call things digital? It was the buzzword.
Yeah.
And cassettes were antiques and stuff like that. and I remember when the record industry was very concerned about these nice, beautiful cassettes.
Yeah.
Because you could record your record on this cassette and then you could share it with your friends and all this stuff for free, and they're freaked out, man.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Napster. Well, AI is a different animal.
Yes.
Look, if we didn't have AI, we wouldn't have a new Beatles song that just came out. And I like the song. I think it turned out good. I like the idea of AI having that kind of influence. But if we're worried about the music industry in regards to AI, then we're missing the boat, because AI has the potential to be doing a lot more damage than anything with the music industry.
Sure.
It can change our life in a huge way. Yeah. And I'm talking jobs.
No, that's true. It's so true. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, think about these cars that are self-driving. What do they call them? What do they call them? Can't think of the word.
Automated driving cars.
Yeah, there's a word for it. But you know, that's happening, and that's AI partially. And now, so it could get into our workforce. It could get into robotics.
Well, it is already there. It's just, you know, slowly. I guess in our discussions, it's kind of like if a band is using AI to do things, that's one thing. But whenever somebody uses AI and they say, create me a song that's based on the Bible, and then they take that song and they put it out in the universe as a artist released song, that's where I think I have a problem with it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, which people are already doing.
Yeah, that's well. We definitely don't allow that like in the group at all. We're like, nah, we had to draw the line there.
I promise you, there's going to be some regulations on it, and there's going to be some things that people are going to realize. Oh, this is not as cool as I thought it was.
Right.
You know.
But what if it's so good you can't even tell the difference sometimes? You know. Unless you have that trained ear.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a potential that you can't tell the difference at all. But I mean, if you look at great songs, it still comes down to these great songs, and AI is going to have its limitations of what's been fed and the information's been given. So basically, it's just a big fat plagiarist, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not technically, because it's always something new. But like, I remember when I was a staff writer at EMI, and I was working with these young writers at a meeting. We're in the circle, and you guys hear that?
No, try it again. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we could.
So I'm in a circle with all these writers, and I play these chords.
We heard it at first though, don't now. Maybe back up or just a little.
moment of truth. Yes.
Hey, that's right. Hey, we're real here. I
That's right. Huh.
heard it.
You got
Heard
the
it for
acoustics
a
around?
second.
How about now? How about now?
Dang, still don't hear it.
We only heard it for like one strum.
Yeah, we heard. Oh, yeah, we heard. Like,
Well, anyway, basically, it goes from E to C.
Like an E minor or like a
E minor to C major.
Okay, gotcha.
And I'm playing those chords, and I said, "Okay, I want you to come up with a melody. I'll play you the verse, and then I'll go to the chorus." I said, by the way, here's the chorus: C to E minor. So it's E minor to C for the verses, and then
and then
C to E minor. Two
I
chords.
hear it. Absolutely.
And we're going around this circle, and this first guy kind of starts singing some melody, you know. Next verse sometimes you go, whatever.
Right.
I get to like the fourth guy, and they just kind of go, "Look, it's two chords. You can't do anything with it because there's not enough there." I said, "Oh, really? Well, let me show you what Paul McCartney came up with."
Yeah, you proved
Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in the church for the wedding. Two chords, the whole song. So AI, you can make it more sophisticated. You can get more clever. You can do all that stuff. But man, there's been hits where there's just Madonna's was one chord to the whole song, and it was a hit. One chord. Go figure that one out.
Yeah, true.
So it's just like, I don't know. I think we're overthinking it, and I think it's going to be. I hope it doesn't turn into this thing that we have AI writing our songs for us now. That probably would make me just not want to listen to it.
Right.
I've heard some AI songs that are written by AI, and they sound pretty convincing, but I'm not convinced that it's AI. I think that some of it's been tampering with it. I don't think it's as straight as they think it is. It isn't yet, anyway.
Yeah.
Hey guys, can I take a second? I'll be right back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, folks. So so we have, man, what a conversation so far.
Yes, awesome. He's worked with so many different bands. I wanted to ask about a few more too.
Yeah, let's do that for sure. I think that I spoke a little bit ago about our AI policy. That is definitely a thing. We're not really for that.
We've had to deal with it more than I thought we would have to sooner than I thought. For sure.
Oh, man. Dude, the way that the music industry has gone, and technology is always like an asset and a liability, and advancements as such.
So did you hear those? There was two songs that Carl from Norway, one of our moderators, made.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very interesting. Now the lyrics were really kind of simple and cheesy, but I mean, it did record a whole song and everything.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out in the group after we get off here, right after. But I definitely saw the discussion, and it was just very interesting. So, those are things that we'll get to take forward as we continue to do things in the group.
Now, are you familiar with Broken Silence?
I've heard that name before, and I'm trying to.
They were like was that a death metal band, or am I thinking of somebody different?
Hold up, I got you in a second.
That's one I wasn't really sure of. I know probably about half of the bands that David's worked with, but not all of them.
Right, I got you. I'm trying to see if Broken Silence artists. I had to look it up for a second and see. Yeah, this was like the 90s. I'll give you yes, I do remember this actually. I'm looking at the. Now it's kind of like along the lines of I would say Bloodgood, but that's not a good.
Just like a rock.
It's kind of along that lines, but at the same time, it reminds me of a heavier version of who's that band that did Eye of the Tiger? Hold up, who was that?
Oh, Survivor?
Yes. Like a heavier version of Survivor. Absolutely.
Nice. I know.
There he is.
I got a surprise for you.
Uh-oh, who's that?
We like surprises.
Look who's here. JT, original drummer for Bloodgood.
Whoa.
Amazing.
What's up, man?
What's up, dude?
Hey, guys.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man.
That's amazing.
It's been a few days.
It's been a few days. Yeah.
Good.
So so you were original drummer. How did you get connected? Just I think you were telling us earlier, David said y'all just kind of knew each other, right? From various the music scene.
Cypress.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, David and
Right
I,
back.
we
Right.
oh, okay. Yeah. So we yeah, I started Crystal City and with another guy with a bass player,
Mhm.
and we're we're looking for a guitar player, and then um, I was going to church at Calvary Chapel in
Okay. Yeah.
Fellowship in Seattle.
Okay.
Um, and the bass player says, "Oh, I know this guy, David. He's a guitar player." And so anyway, so David, we called him or whatever, and he came over, and we had a jam, and in my basement, we were rehearsing in my basement in Kirkland, Washington, and up in Seattle, and so we got done jamming, and David, um, he's really I couldn't quite read him to whether he liked the jam or what.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So he's putting his guitar away, and I said, "So, like, what do you think? You want to play with us?" He's like, he looks up and goes, "Yeah, yeah, you guys are cool." He goes, "Yeah, I'll play with you," like that.
Oh
And
wow.
it was like just boom. And so then he brought Rob Cochran into Crystal City that
Okay.
David was playing in a club band with, and they had within the last year, 2 years or whatever less, I guess accepted the Lord and
Okay.
started walking with the Lord, and so that's what it was all about, and and then it just kind of we started out playing. I'm gonna say like sort of REO Speedwagon and
Yeah.
Pink Floydy kind of stuff, and
Mhm.
and then I write lyrics. Lyrics was my forte, and
Okay.
so eventually the four guys that were in Crystal City, we all sang. Everybody sang lead.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like four. So we had 3-part harmony on top of lead vocals.
Mhm.
And Mike Bloodgood, you said he made a big joke. He goes, "You guys are the Beatles." So because we had there was a lot of fun, and it's kind of Crystal City. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not, but we just put out a new CD
Oh wow.
back in January of 21. You can pick it up on it's on YouTube and Spotify, and you name it.
Sure.
The Crystal City Rockers, and it's fun stuff. It's kind of like early Beatles meets Tom Petty.
Nice.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, it's fun
Yeah.
stuff.
So
You already know
anyway,
that's you already know
I was just gonna ask, did you grow up in Seattle?
yeah.
no, I was born in Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
Oh wow,
And,
you live in Seattle.
yeah,
Whoa.
yeah, and so I had a brother in Seattle. He was
Okay.
3 years older than me, and I was playing in a band in Rochester, New York, back in the day, and we were supposed to go. Now, we weren't walking with the Lord. It wasn't a Christian band or anything,
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
and it was like a little sort of BC for me. So I things didn't really work out. We were supposed to go on this Van Halen's first tour, be their warm up band and stuff, and
Mhm.
anyway, so that it just didn't work out. A couple of the guys were on hard drugs, and my brother called me. He's out in Seattle. He's like, "Man, what are you doing?" I said, "He said, get out here." So I just left. I just left the band and I just went out to Seattle, and that's how I ended up there. So
Nice.
Good times.
Yeah, cool. So what were your which albums did you play on for Bloodgood?
I was on the first record.
Oh, you on the first record. That's cool. That's a great introduction to, just that whole first record is a great introduction to like a band. It's definitely considered, of course, a classic album.
Yeah,
In Christian metal, very influential for sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so I guess the other thing I want to discuss is your decision to my Bloodgood, and then even you all as artists, your decision to I guess focus on Christian themed music. what influenced that, and was like a talk you all had in the group, like we're going to be a Christian band, and
Well, you have to understand too that when Bloodgood started, I think the only other Christian band that I knew of was Stryper.
mm,
But the whole idea of a Christian metal band, most would consider an oxymoron.
right.
You know? And because they were in juxtaposition, there's no doubt about that.
Mhm.
But Michael Bloodgood wanted to start a Christian metal band because he just like he'd see when I quit Crystal City, we were playing this show, and there's for this small room, and there's like about I don't know 8 young adults there. That's it. But when we're loading their gear out, it was like all these cars and all these kids, just thousands of them hanging out and part in this area. And I'm like, not one of them was in that show. And it's like, I'm thinking, this ain't working, you know? So JT and Michael was starting this Christian metal band, and JT was with them. And then it was kind of an obvious fit for us. And so we got together, but we were doing cover songs of metal, like Ronnie James Dio and some of the other. What was that one?
White Snake.
White Snake and the what was
White
that?
Snake.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, So the lyrics,
Nice.
I repeat the lyrics because they're so bad.
Yeah.
Who was that? Here I am, rock like a hurt.
Oh, Scorpions.
Yeah.
Oh, Scorpion. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we were playing that stuff. Then by the time Les got in the band, he's like, well, we don't have any business doing that music. We're going to write our own. And everyone was like, oh, we are? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So, and that was Les's push. That really came from Les. Michael was neither here nor there. He didn't have a problem either way. But when Les said it, it all kind of rang true. And so we did. We wrote these songs. JT had written Battle of the Flesh before Bloodgood even recorded it. And JT wrote that song, but it's on the second record with Detonation. And JT's not playing the drums, Mark Welling is. But JT had played it in the Metal Missionaries demo.
Okay.
Killed it and did a really great job on that. So, but yeah, we just felt like, this is a ministry. And there was no mistaking that we saw it as a ministry in a place of service for God's kingdom. That was our intent.
That's awesome. I think it's also cool that you all have, even though, bands come and go and, people leave and all that stuff, but, the fact that you all have worked together, I'm talking about like, not just you and JT, but you and Les and, and Mike and all the others. I think it's cool that, like a lot of bands have crazy stories about not being able to get along outside of music. And
it was definitely not Bloodgood. We all got along.
Yeah, it's such a testament to the power of Christ, you know what I'm saying? And even just knowing the Lord, man. And that way you can, it definitely helps a lot of times to keep some of the weirdness down.
Oh yeah, you bet.
And staying off of drugs too. And they people say something about dealing with band members in his secular band that were on drugs. Oh my God, I've seen that way too many times.
So it's JT. Whenever you were on the first album, what did you go on to do after that, and kind of like what do you do today?
Well, I just basically after the Bloodgood album, after I left the band, I really didn't do a whole lot with music.
Okay.
For a while,
yeah. And then many years later, I did a bunch of studio work. I moved to Nashville, and that's when David and I hooked back up again. We always talked on the phone and stuff like that. And but when I left Seattle, I moved to Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida. But I really just did a bunch of studio work here and there, and for different people who were trying to do demos and all that.
All different genres and stuff you work with.
Yeah, different. Yeah, different. All different kinds of jazz.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
Love jazz. And so then when I moved to Nashville, you're sort of in Mecca, for music.
Oh yeah.
And So anyway, I just started playing with all these different people, and you know, and did a lot of worship on a couple different worship teams and stuff like that. So
Right.
Love it.
yeah.
I love it. Well, cool. Well, I'll ask this question and then I'll let Jim chime in with whatever he wants to chime in with. What is your favorite thing about being a Christian? I guess this is both of y'all can answer this.
Well, my favorite thing about is receiving God's love and giving it away.
That's amazing. I love that answer.
That's it. And I'm really into the understanding of spiritual sonship, of being an adopted son through the blood of Christ, of just a revelation of that, a revealing of that in my own spirit every day. Just really knowing what cool things God thinks about every one of us, and that he loves us no matter what, and even though I'm a schmuck most of the time and I make mistakes, God, Jesus, and he doesn't condemn me. It says there's no more condemnation for those in Christ.
Amen.
And it's just, like I say, just being loved by God and being able to love people with that same love, that's what it's.
I love that, man.
That's good.
Yeah. So.
But you, David?
I'd probably say kind of a similar thing with JT. I mean, my favorite thing is obviously my relationship with Christ and the fact that from time to time he'll speak to us. It's not like I'm saying, well, I'm hearing an audible voice or anything like that, but it's the Bible says, the Lord said that my sheep hear my voice. They know who they know me. They hear my voice. They can tell. And that's fantastic experience. To experience that is most of the time is going to be pretty overwhelming in a good way. There's this brokenness that comes over you, and it's just magnificent. The other thing that I find fascinating, and I love this about it, is the scriptures, the Bible. And I've read the Bible, a long time now, and I still find new things. I still find things, and it's the Bible says that the Word of God is alive. It actually says it's alive.
Sure.
And so it's like a living document. But the constitutionists will say, well, living document, so it can be changed. Like, no, because that's, constitutionalists would say Constitution's not a living document.
Right.
It is what it is then, and it stands for now. But somebody else that would be more liberal would say, no, it is a living document. It can change, and it'll change for the times. The Bible's kind of like that. It's living, but it's not changing.
Right.
But it's revealing things all the time.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit can reveal things to us. You read the same thing 10 times, and the 11th time you're like, oh wait, I didn't even see
right.
It. Sure.
Yeah.
I know that's such a beautiful thing. That happened with me a lot. I think, another thing I think with the Bible is that there's a lot a lot of, I guess, types and we got archetypes and things that were fulfilled and things that are still being fulfilled today. Sure.
Yeah.
That's also beautiful. And of course, we can look at parts of the Bible like Matthew 24, and it's like, dang, it looks like front page news.
Yeah, I know, right?
So,
man.
What can the Christian metal community do to help support David and JT?
Well, first of all, I mean, we all should be praying for one another. We can always be doing more of that.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, directly, I guess there might be people out there, Christian in the metal community, Christian metal, that it would be nice to strike up a conversation with them and talk to them, and maybe just say, hey, maybe they're going through a hard time, and I can pray for them or tell them, well, maybe you should consider this in Christ or consider that in Christ, and that would, because it's more blessed to give than it is to receive. So when I'm able to give to somebody, that does help me. So I guess that's how I'd probably address that.
That's good.
No, that's cool. Absolutely. I mean, I have found that so much, even as a musician and just as a person that does stuff. I mean,
I think
even this, like this whole ministry right here is, of course, a volunteer thing, man. But I can speak for the rest of the leadership team and say we've really been blessed by, our passion for this ministry, and this is exactly what it is, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
You got anything to add, JT?
Oh, well, I mean, as far as the metal in the music and everything, Christian metal is that, there's some different avenues like for people to go on and to buy the product and continue to continue to purchase the product. And that one of those is Girder Records.
Okay.
And
I just got a large order from there. So
yeah. So people can go down Girder Records and, and get, several of the Bloodgood, Greg Hayes put out several of the Bloodgood albums on vinyl. And he's the one that did the Metal Missionaries project, and
I got that DVD. Yeah, so awesome.
Yeah, and so just to people can just go on and support that, and then there's a lot of other great stripers on there, and on Girder, and so just continue like David's saying to pray for the the ones that are that kind of forge the way ahead, I guess.
Yeah.
And then just to stay in, like what you guys are doing right now is just keeping the fire burning, and that's really that's awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah. The last thing I just want to tell everybody, David just released a new song with Les Carlson. So y'all go check that out. Where's the best place for people to find that?
Oh boy, that's a question for Les. I think Les, I think Girder Records is distributing that.
Okay, cool.
I'm pretty sure. And but if you go to Les Carlson's Facebook page, you'll see promotions for that too, where you can download it and access it there too.
Yeah.
Sure.
I saw it on Bandcamp. That's where I saw it being promoted off of there.
Yeah, Bandcamp is usually good for sure. I mean, yeah, I love Bandcamp.
Yeah. Awesome.
Like, for supporting the artists, for sure.
Yes. Well, awesome. Thank y'all both so much for being here.
God bless y'all.
We're looking forward to hearing any new music that comes out and supporting all the old music, obviously. Hope y'all have a great day.
Thank you. You too.